Hello, my dear children. Namaste and welcome to session 4 of our class 10 ICSE biology chapter, the circulatory system. This is Ambika, your biology master teacher, right here at Vedantu. Okay, hope all of you are staying in good health. Very, very important. I don't think I have asked you that in a while, although at the end of every session, I like reminding you that you must take care of yourself, take care of people around you, stay safe, because that's what matters the most in this difficult situation, in these difficult times that the world, especially now in India also, that the cases are rising every single day. Let's stay safe. Let's take all precautions and move on. Okay. And with full Josh, here we go. And here is another positive quote for you. You are only confined by the walls you build yourself. As in, what does that mean? If ever we think that something is a hindrance to what we do, or because of that, because this happened, or because that happened, or because of this person or these people, I'm not able to achieve my true potential. If ever we think that way, we are totally wrong, because each one of us is confined only by the walls that we build on our own. Let's imagine no limitations at all. Let's imagine no hindrance at all to anything. Sky is the limit. Nothing to stop us from attaining our goals, from achieving our dreams. Definitely with this kind of an open-minded attitude, trust me guys, anything is possible if done with the right attitude. Okay, and now let's talk about the homework question I gave you in the last session, which is SA node of the heart is present in which chamber? SA node is present in which chamber of the heart? So yes, this is the SA node, which we call the sinoatrial node. And if you remember, I've told you that this is what we call the pacemaker of the heart, right? Because this is where the electrical signals get generated, and it transmits it along with its friends, which are the AV node, the bundle of His, the Purkinje fibers, and all of these together ensure that the pace of the heart is maintained. So yes, the SA node, as you can see, is present in the right atrium. Yes. And today, let us learn about the last few concepts in the chapter, which are tissue fluid, lymph, lymphatic system, and the spleen. It's very, very simple. This is not going to take us very long. I think most of the students just have a confusion about what exactly the lymphatic system is. It's not difficult in understanding the composition of the lymph, or how the lymphatic system works. But then what is more difficult sometimes is something very, very basic, because many of us don't have clarity in understanding why the lymphatic system is taught under the chapter circulation, which was actually supposed to be all over the heart, blood vessels, blood, and all of that. So yes, lymphatic system is also very, very important as far as our circulation is concerned. Have a look at this animation, this simple animation, my dear children. The red tube-like structures which you see here are the blood vessels, the blood capillaries, the tiny vessels through which blood flows. Okay, so it can be the arterioles, or it can be something that represents the capillaries, doesn't matter, but then they are a set of blood vessels. More importantly, I would like you to imagine that these are carrying oxygenated blood. So they have to be either the major arteries, or they have to be branches of the arterioles. Okay, so arterioles, through them, through the arteries, blood, we know, flows under very, very high pressure, right? Because what are arteries doing? Just to remind you, let's just recall that the arteries actually carry oxygenated blood away from your heart, right? Arteries carry oxygenated blood away from your heart, right? When this happens, the blood must be flowing within arteries and arterioles under very, very high pressure, under immense pressure. That is exactly why they are not even provided with valves, because there is not even a question of blood flowing in the backward direction as far as the arteries are concerned. Arteries and arterioles, within them, blood flows under very high pressure. But it's important to see, notice what's happening in this image, okay? There are certain substances that you can see are moving out from the blood capillaries into spaces around them. What is that? Why is it even happening? This is what we are going to be discussing today. So to set some context for you, let me remind you, because blood is flowing under such a high pressure through the arteries and arterioles, it's only natural that through the walls of these arteries and arterioles, through the walls of these blood vessels, there are actually very, very tiny pores, really, really tiny pores. Okay, and through these, because of such high pressure, it's only natural that some of this fluid which is flowing through the blood vessels can ooze out through these openings. This is exactly what you can see in this animation given here, in the simple GIF that's given here. Some part of the blood, certain components of the blood are oozing out through these tiny pores on the arterial walls. But it's important to note that not everything, not your entire blood can pass through it. These pores which are present in the walls of your arteries and arterioles are so tiny, they are extremely tiny, that huge particles like RBCs and all of them and many other proteins cannot pass through them. Okay, not huge substances can pass through them, but rather the liquid part, which is the plasma, along with certain white blood cells, have the ability to pass through these pores into these outer spaces. So what do you think would happen if this happens? A lot of your blood components, valuable blood components, are oozing out from your blood vessels. What do you think would happen if they just imagine a situation where they were just getting accumulated in spaces all around your blood vessels? You would end up looking bloated all the time. All of us human beings would end up looking bloated. Maybe we won't even be able to live normally because all of this is getting accumulated in empty spaces around our blood vessels. So what is the solution to this? The solution is our main topic for today, which is the lymphatic system, and that is what you see in these bluish and purplish colored vessels. You will understand more about it as we discuss further, but I hope the context is set to you. Lymphatic system is basically, simply put, a system that helps in collection of these oozed out components of blood and returns it eventually into the circulatory system. Okay, so let us learn more about the lymphatic system. This is what we call the tissue fluid. What is it? We know that tissues are made up of cells, right? So these are adjacent cells which you see here, and the space which you see around adjacent cells are what we call interstitial fluid or tissue fluid. Okay, all the time this keeps flowing. So tissue fluids, what is their function? They help in exchange of substances, which is basically like giving oxygen and other substances to the cell, and at the same time taking away carbon dioxide and probably many other waste matter away from the cells. This is why tissue fluid is always very, very important. So what is lymph? Now remember, I told you all of this this oozed out fluid, these bluish molecules you can see, are getting released into empty spaces, but then along with this tissue fluid, they are getting accumulated, they are getting collected in minute channels, tiny channels or tubes, which are called lymph vessels. Lymph vessels, which are these blue or purple, as you can see it now, colored vessels or channels which are there. So now, once this tissue fluid has entered into the lymph vessels, we now call it the lymph. Okay, so basically, what do you think the constitution of lymph would be? What do you think the composition of lymph would be? Think about it. I would like to hear it from you. Anyway, let us proceed. Okay, lymph formation. How is lymph getting formed? So, as I told you, this what you see on top here, this particular structure, this tubular structure here is a blood capillary. High pressure blood flowing into the capillary, and what you see inside this tube is capillary, which contains the blood. And then because of this high pressure, which I have mentioned here, water, cells, oxygen, glucose, etc. can pass through the capillary walls, okay, and they may enter into random spaces which are there in cells surrounding the capillaries in the area which we call getting filled with tissue fluid. We call it tissue fluid because it's just joining there. From the blood vessels, it's oozing out and joining the rest of the tissue fluid which is there. And from there, what's happening? It's entering into the lymph vessels. Into the lymph vessels, it's entering, and now we call it the lymph. Right, this is exactly what happens. And then, okay, so this is what happens, and then you can see low pressure blood, relatively low pressure blood flows from the capillary like further down. So this just continues. So what happens to it? We've spoken about lymph vessels which are collecting lymph. What happens to it after that? Where does it go? As I told you at the start, this eventually joins back the rest of the circulation. But how does it do it, and why is it even happening? Before we come to that, how is the movement of lymph happening inside the lymph vessels? Lymph vessels are actually able to push the lymph within them because of contraction of certain muscles. It's a set of smooth muscles as well as skeletal muscles which are found around these lymph vessels. Because of some kind of squeezing or something of the organs of those parts of the body within which there can be lymph vessels, which is basically across your entire body. But when there is squeezing of certain parts, what happens is the lymph vessels which are in that particular region are able to move the lymph forward and through the lymph vessels. But more importantly, it's important to understand that it always flows in one direction only. Look at it from here to there. Why is it so? It's because just like in the heart and in the veins, they are also provided with what we call valves. These valves ensure that lymph flows unidirectionally and doesn't flow in the wrong or the reverse direction. Okay, so because of the presence of valves and because of the action of these smooth muscles and skeletal muscles which are surrounding the lymphatic vessels, lymph is able to move forward, because it's not like in your blood vessels or in your arteries, there was something to pump it, right? The heart pumped the blood under with very high force and pressure, and that is how the blood is able to get pumped across your body. But here, how is the lymph getting pumped? It's not that it has a separate heart. This is basically the mechanism. The valves ensure unidirectional movement, and the smooth and skeletal muscles ensure through their action that it's able to propel forward. Okay, now how does it occur? Now, lymph flow direction, as I told you, where does it go? We have said that lymph gets collected, as in it's initially in the form of tissue fluid in between random cells of your body. It gets collected, it enters into what we call the lymphatic vessels, and then is when we call it the lymph. We give it the name lymph. So actually how we would mention it is, there are tiny branches of these lymphatic vessels which we call lymphatic capillaries. Okay, these tiny green tubes which you see in close proximity to blood capillaries, see that in this area. I want you to focus on this area. Notice the lymphatic capillaries there, which are the greenish tubes which are there. These lymphatic capillaries are where the tissue fluid is entering first. That is when we call it lymph. These lymphatic capillaries then join together to form larger lymph vessels which are provided with valves, as you see here, collecting lymphatic vessels which are provided with valves. And then where does it go? From different lymphatic vessels, they all join into certain clusters of places, clustered areas, which are actually called lymph nodes. And these are very important as far as your immunity is concerned, because lymph nodes are actually the point which contain a lot of immune boosting cells, like the B cells, T cells, and all of them. They undergo their maturation process and all of that in a lot of these areas associated with the lymphatic system. Lymph node specifically is an area, or lymph nodes rather. There are hundreds of lymph nodes in your body. And so let's make that also clear, which means they are like scattered across your entire body. So various lymphatic vessels join together and they reach a point which is called the lymph node, where because of a lot of these immune cells lot of filtration of the lymph is happening. Filtration in the sense, lymph nodes, because they have immune cells, are able to attack and kill a lot of germs which may have come along with the lymph. Because what is it? It's basically coming from the tissue fluid, coming from the intercellular spaces where there could have been any foreign invader, any bacteria or viruses which tried to cause infection. All of these are getting collected in the lymph, and at the lymph nodes it gets filtered. A lot of killing and destruction of foreign bodies happens in the lymph node, and then there is another set of lymph vessels which leaves the lymph node, and they join to form larger channels which we call the lymph trunk. Okay, and then the lymph trunks join to form even larger tubes which are called lymph ducts, collecting ducts or lymph ducts. Okay, let's use the word lymph duct so that there is no confusion. And then where does that go? That goes and empties into the major anterior vein, which is close to the right auricle, and then that is how it enters further into circulation. This is how lymph and lymphatic system plays a huge role, because imagine one major advantage of it, two advantages that I can simply see of the lymph and the lymphatic system. One is, of course, as I told you at the start, because all the tiny components of the blood, including the fluidy portion of it, gets oozed out. We need a system to accumulate it, to collect it, and help prevent its wastage so that it's joining back into the bloodstream. Lymph vessels are helping for that, right? That is one reason. Then secondly, because the lymph nodes are a very, very good area where there are a lot of immune cells, lot of filtration of all of these foreign bodies, foreign matter is happening, because of which this lymph, which is eventually returning into your normal blood circulation, is actually free of all of these, or at least most of these harmful pathogens. Okay, so this is how it plays a very, very important role in immunity. So now coming to the composition of lymph, remember I told you to just think about it. Lymph, because it's something that that is formed from blood itself, it's got a lot of similarity with blood, but at the same time it's got some major differences also. So just like the blood, we can say that the lymph components of lymph can be divided into a cellular part and a non-cellular part. Okay, cellular part includes only leukocytes. What are leukocytes? Your white blood cells. And the white blood, the subtype of white blood cells which you would mostly find in lymph are lymphocytes. We have many different types of white blood cells, right? Lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils, all of them. Lymphocytes are what we find mainly in the lymph. There are no platelets either. Why is it so? Because as I told you, many of these components of the blood are too large to pass through the pores and escape the blood vessels, escape the arterioles. Okay, coming to the non-cellular part of the lymph, 94% of it is water, and there are 6% solids, which is pretty much a mix of a lot of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, enzymes, antibodies, and so on. All of these together are what you would find in lymph. So lymph is similar to blood because it's also a circulatory fluid, but then its role is completely different, or rather it is I wouldn't say completely different, but they are rather very, very good friends working closely in association with each other, blood and lymph. Okay, now lymph nodes, I told you there are like hundreds of lymph nodes. There are said to be around 600 plus lymph nodes in the human body, right? So one important thing to note is that all of the lymphatic vessels, I told you lymphatic capillaries join to form lymph vessels. Lymph vessels would always go through a lymph node, which means before the lymph is joining back into your heart and its rest of the circulation, it definitely passes through the lymph nodes, at least one or a few lymph nodes for sure. This is important in terms of filtering out also. So what do you think would happen when there is an infection? At the time of infection, because the lymph nodes, I told you, work very hard in doing a role in immunity, killing a lot of pathogens. So when this happens, lymph nodes end up swelling up because they are working very, very hard. They are probably like accumulating a lot of the foreign matter there. So when this happens, lymph nodes swell up at the time of infections. So this is an example of a swollen lymph node. So it's something that you might have noticed when you go to a doctor, when you are ill, like with a viral infection or something like that, a viral fever or some kind of a bacterial infection. They may try pressing certain parts of your body, like mainly they try feeling for your for like below your jaws, your neck and all of that, because lymph nodes in those regions easily swell up when the most common bacterial and viral infections have occurred in your body. Okay, if they feel it swollen up, it may perhaps help them assess better. Okay, so this is important to know that they are feeling nothing but your lymph nodes. Okay, so I think children, we are in a good position to go on to a quiz time. But then before that, I need to tell you a few very, very important, very a set of useful things which will certainly benefit you all. Especially because many of our students have been telling us about the major problems that they face. Not just children, actually, parents have also been telling us that with online education, especially like this academic year, right? Unfortunately, nobody has been able to attend normal school. At least in India, we've been careful right from the start. Towards the end of your last academic year itself, lockdown was declared, and then education has completely taken over a new phase totally. So maybe most of you have a lot of unanswered doubts because you don't get to meet your teachers very often, and then your notes, there's nobody to give you proper notes, there's nobody to check if the notes you are making are proper or not. Tests and assignments are not like systematically happening, of course, because the ambience, everything is different. And then competitive exams preparation becomes more of a problem, and then choice of schedule is a problem, choice of language is a problem, and so on. But not to worry, children, we at Vedantu have got all of these problems solved for you, in addition to giving you a lot of added bonuses, some of which are unlimited live classes, a lot of micro and crash courses, performance reports, personalized attention, and so on, because we've got master teachers and class teachers who together work to ensure that your progress is monitored, and to help you analyze and assess your weak areas and how you can improve on them. And yes, another thing I want to mention here is about our micro courses, which are concept level, topic level, or rather chapter level courses, which are designed exclusively for those of you who want like extra help, or maybe only help with certain topics of your syllabus. Okay, crash course, of course, everybody knows what they are, but micro courses, I would say, are a very, very useful part of our curriculum, what Vedantu has. All you have to do is, to know more about this, just visit the link which is given in the description box below. Click on it, and you can apply the coupon code, which is AMBPRO, which is my coupon code, using which you will be able to avail our amazing courses at amazing rates. Well, I would honestly say even without the coupon code, the rates are not extremely high, but then because we have this available now, definitely make use of it. AMBPRO. So I'll just guide you step by step very quickly so that you have no confusion. Once you click on the link which is there in the description box below, you will get to choose your grade first. So I'm assuming for you guys it's going to be grade 10, and select target, so perhaps ICSE 2021, and then check out all the details of the courses which we call Vedantu Pro. All the bonus features and all the features I've told you, in addition to a lot more features which are mentioned here. Okay, and then what do? Click on the button which says Get Subscription. So we've got all of these three major plans laid out here for you: the 1 month plan, the 3 month plan, and the 6 months plan. The 1 month plan for Vedantu Pro subscription, which means for the next 1 full month, you are tension free. Leave everything to Vedantu, because all your major subjects will be taken care of by Vedantu's expert teachers. Normally, the 1 month of subscription is priced at 2,699. Like currently, that's the normal price without application of a coupon code. But as I said, you can use the code AMBPRO, apply it, and the amount payable gets reduced to 2,159.2. This is for 1 full month. That to remember, children, such a reasonable price for all your major subjects, and unlimited number of live classes and all of those features that I have told you. Now, 3 months. Okay, 3 months of pro subscription is normally currently priced at 6,999, but apply the coupon code AMBPRO to reduce it to 5,599.2. This means for the next 3 months, which is October, November, December, till the end of December, you're going to be completely tension free. And then for 6 months, which means 6 months of subscription will keep you tension free for the rest of your academic year, because October, November, December, Jan, Feb, March, 6 more months for you to finish this academic year. So normally the price is 11,499, but apply the code AMBPRO to reduce this price to 9,199.2 for 6 full months. If you subscribe all your major subjects with so many micro courses, crash courses, performance reports, attention, personalized attention from class teachers and master teachers, and whatnot, in-class doubt solving, so many other features, children. Everything available to you at such a reasonable rate, 9,199.2, because we truly believe that courses, good quality education must also be pocket friendly. Okay, children, so do not forget to check it out. Please do check it out and remember to apply the coupon code AMBPRO. Okay, now time for a quick check. The fluid which surrounds the cells is called cell fluid, cytoplasm, tissue fluid, lymph. Yes, let's see how many of you properly paid attention to what all I said. And your time ends in 3, 2, 1, go. Yes, the answer is tissue fluid. Why is it not lymph? Lymph is not the fluid which surrounds the cells. Lymph is the name given to it only when this tissue fluid gets into lymph nodes, lymph vessels. Okay, not the lymph nodes. When it gets into lymph vessels itself, we give it the name lymph. Okay, lymph gets filtered at dash. Lymph nodes, lymph vessels, major anterior vein, lymphatic capillaries. Where does lymph get filtered at? Think about the situation of infection which I told you about. And your time ends in 3, 2, 1 and go. The answer is lymph nodes. And remember, there are 600 plus lymph nodes in the human body. Now, dash is not found in the lymph. Leukocytes, platelets, water, proteins. Okay, what is it? Not found in the lymph. All right, and your time ends in 3, 2, 1, go. Platelets become your answer because they are too big to ooze out through the pores in the blood vessels to enter into the tissue fluid. Certain small proteins can be found in the lymph, but not the very large ones. Okay, and very, very well done. But we are not done yet. I have something very, very small to add to this, which is about one of the organs which we call the lymphatic organs. There is quite a handful of lymphatic organs which are found in our body. The spleen is one of them, one major lymphatic organ. Which where would you find them? You find it situated in the abdominal region, behind the stomach and above the left kidney. Okay, this is where you would find the spleen. It's an organ which is reddish brown in color, and it's said to be the size of a clenched fist, something like this, roughly like this, like how we describe the heart, something like that. Okay, so what does it do? The functions of spleen, mainly it acts as a blood reservoir. Yes, it acts as a blood reservoir. And why so? It actually provides blood during a lot of emergency situations like hemorrhage, stress, carbon monoxide poisoning. In all such difficult situations, spleen is there to provide blood. But of course, when hemorrhage and all of that, especially when brain hemorrhage and things like that happen, it usually ends up becoming fatal because the blood is unable to, stop. The bleeding is unable to stop. Blood fails to clot basically when hemorrhage happens. So in such situations, it can be dangerous also. But then there is always a secondary backup plan in our body. Spleen is one such organ which helps in such a backup program, such a backup situation, acts as a backup in such situations like hemorrhage, stress, and carbon monoxide poisoning. What is carbon monoxide poisoning, by the way? It's a situation where you end up inhaling a lot of carbon monoxide, which probably was there somewhere around, like there was pollution of carbon monoxide or leakage of carbon monoxide from somewhere. When this happens, if you happen to inhale a lot of carbon monoxide, your hemoglobin ends up binding to that carbon monoxide instead of oxygen, because it's got high affinity for carbon monoxide, and this ends up choking you to death. Okay, this can happen. And then it acts as a cell maker. What do you mean by that? It acts as a cell maker. The spleen acts as the cell maker in the sense that it produces lymphocytes, a type of WBCs, right? It also acts as a cell destroyer. Why so? Because this is the place where worn out, which means used up and tired and worn out red blood cells are destroyed. This is happening in the spleen. And yes, this is done along with the liver, this destruction of RBCs. It also makes RBCs in embryos, very, very important, right? So the place where a lot of our blood cells are formed as we develop is the spleen, a major organ which is part of your lymphatic system also. Okay. Now, let us just quickly answer a couple of questions more. Then I will give you the homework question for today. It's a very simple one, okay? So let's see who's going to be answering that first. But before that, answer this question. Dash of the circulatory system is also a lymphatic organ. The heart, lungs, spleen, none of these. Which of these is a lymphatic organ? Yes. As long as you don't have shorter memory loss, I'm sure you will get this answer right. And your time is up. The answer is spleen. Okay. Dash is an organ which acts as a blood reservoir and supplies blood at the time of hemorrhage. Spleen, heart, lungs, none of these. Okay. And your time ends in 3, 2, 1 and go. The answer is spleen. Okay. I completely understand. All of you have done really, really well. Partially, I would say it is because I have just told you this, but I want all of you to be able to answer this even during our mentee quiz, which is going to be happening as the next session of this chapter. Okay, so even when I ask you concepts randomly from here and there in this chapter, I want you all to tell me the answer without any confusion. Okay, guys, but let me remind that you now know about tissue fluid, you now know about the lymph, you now know about the lymphatic system, and you now know about the spleen. Yes, and here is your homework question. Dash organ is also known as graveyard of RBCs. Is it anything related to what we have discussed today, or is it anything else? I want you to do a basic research if you are not sure about the answer, but yes, I want you to understand and read up more also in the process, not just giving me that one word answer. Okay, but yes, let's see who's going to be giving me the answers first. Do remember to visit the link which is given in the description box below and use the coupon code AMBPRO. And thank you very much, children, for joining me today. If you have enjoyed this session, if you found it useful, please do remember to hit the like button now, because obviously this is not a live session and this is the only way I get to know that this was useful to you. And please do share it with all your ICSE class 10 friends. And yes, I would suggest share it with CBSE also, because this is certainly worth knowing as part of circulatory system. And subscribe to our channel Vedantu 9th and 10th English if you haven't done it yet, because we still have a lot more coming up for you. Wait and watch. And to ensure that you don't miss out on any of our major updates, stay tuned to the channel. Okay, guys, and until we meet again, take care, stay safe, stay healthy, take care of everyone around you. Bye-bye.